Well, we're back, and boy, we switched things around here pretty quick, and we got rid of the pretty people, and we brought in some other people.
Some other people.
Ouch. No, we got Bud Amundsen and Matt Sweeney in the studio with us today from Youth for Christ, and we're talking about one of the subjects that I've been very much concerned about for a long time and a huge need, and that is the subject of mentoring. And Matt and Bud, nice to see you guys today.
Thanks for being back.
Good. I see you got your North Medford colors on.
Tornado all the way.
A tornado all the way. So you're obviously a high school football fan.
Not so much. I am just a black tornado.
Okay, that's good. All right, let's get into this a little bit. Bud, we've been talking about mentoring.
We have.
And you got a class coming up?
We do. The 25th, we have our, well, the first part of it will be orientation, or, just basically an introduction to mentoring. And then the second 2/3 is the first part of our training to give people I guess empower them to connect with kids.
All right, and I just want to say that if you've ever thought about praying about, or if you feel the tug of the Lord to get involved in mentoring, if you could come to just the first part of that orientation meeting, I think it'll dispel all of your fears and help you to really maybe go to the next step and helping some young people. Matt's with us today, and you've been a part of YFC for quite some time, and you have one of the most interesting assignments there. Tell us what you do.
I am the Juvenile Justice Ministry Director. My specialty is working with kids that are criminals. I say that a bit tongue-in-cheek, although there is truth to it. I'm the chaplain in the Juvenile Detention Center. I'm up at the Youth Correctional Facility in Grants Pass almost every week, heavily involved there. There's a mentoring program that we operate for kids that are in the juvenile justice system, and I visit kids at different treatment programs around the area.
I just got to think, in addition to all the things that go on with young people, this is really going to be a difficult one.
Sometimes, yeah. I guess I'd say God has gifted me for it. I love what I do. I can't imagine doing anything else.
Wow.
But there are times it'll break your heart.
All right. Now, mentoring somebody that's in one of these facilities, how does that work?
The kids are moving through a system. Juvenile detention is comparable in the adult system would be the county jail. Most kids are there for short to medium periods of time. And they'll either go home or they will go to a treatment program, and there are several scattered throughout the state, including some locally. And I'm talking about residential treatment programs. If they get in enough trouble, or if they get in trouble enough times, they'll graduate to going to a youth prison. And there's 7 of them around the state. They'll originally go up to Hillcrest, which is in Salem, for intake, and most Jackson County boys will end up in Grants Pass at Rogue Valley Youth Correctional Facility. The girls will end up in Albany at Oak Creek Youth Correctional Facility.
All right, so if somebody was to mentor, come alongside and work with you in mentoring, how do they get involved? How much can they get involved with a young person who's incarcerated?
It really depends upon the individual kid's situation. If the kid is back in the community, the sky's the limit for how much contact they can have. On the other hand, if a kid has gone to a youth correctional facility, for example, if a boy is up in Grants Pass, there's regular communication via letter, potential for visits by phone, and then traveling to visit, which is true for the girls that go up to Oak Creek and Albany. It's just a bit further for travel. Eventually, they'll always work their way back to Medford. Almost always.
All right, so what kind of an impact can a mentor have with somebody that they can't really see a whole lot?
We've got a young lady who is in a treatment program down in Ashland. She's actually from Coos Bay, but she asked for a mentor, and we introduced her to a mentor. This girl has no one. She has no home to go to. She doesn't have an established foster home that she's connected with. She has no one.
No,
no one.
I think we have a hard time getting that in our head. In today's culture, she has no one.
No one. She ran from Lithia Springs Treatment Program, and she is currently in the Douglas County Juvenile Detention Center. Her mentor is heartbroken. And I'm in the process of connecting with the girl's probation officer to get the mentor reconnected with her at the treatment program. The mentor will stay connected by phone, by letter. That gives a measure of stability. It tells this girl you're not forgotten, you're not throwaway, you're not garbage. And that can be the difference between life and death for some of these kids.
Now, the no one situation, Bud, doesn't just happen to kids that are incarcerated.
No, that's true. And you know, the kids that are incarcerated are generally kids that have had no one for quite some time, and so you know, the fallout of that is for them to either relieve the pain through drugs or other addictions. You know, we saw the article of sex trafficking this past week, and you know, those kids are into survival sex in a sense, and the effects of that, and you know, they get caught up in all kinds of different crime, and that's where they're gonna end. But you know, we try and work with those kids and reach those kids in our youth center, in the HATS mentoring program, before they are caught up in some sort of crime. When again, like you say, we have a hard time getting our head wrapped around the fact that these kids have no one, and thinking of living life with no one. I'm completely on my own to manage life as I know it, which is a pretty poor interpretation of life. And then how do I survive? How do I get through? How do I you know, eat today? That takes those kids into all kinds of different directions.
All right, so it all comes back to the simplicity that there's a lot of adults out there that think their life is so wrecked and such a mess that God could never use them. And here's a lot of young people over here who's entering that. And these people need to know that have come through that God actually can use all of that to save these kids from going down that road.
Yes.
And so what can you say to the crowd to say, come on, give us a call, help us?
You know, this is not to guilt in any way,
right,
because it's really a description of an opportunity. It's not like, hey, we're not cutting it. It's really, here's an open door. The reality is these kids that are in desperate need are so available to someone that will care, to just listen, to engage them in a conversation. As you know, Dr. Savage said earlier, just to dialogue with them so that you hear. And we talk about it in Youth for Christ circles, 3-story evangelism, where it's really just listen to their story, share your story. And in that, in your story, if you have a relationship with Jesus Christ, if you know God, that story, His story, God's story, will come through when you share what's going on. And when those stories dovetail, that's just
life-changing.
Life-changing. It's so simple.
Yeah.
But and that's the thing, kids. You know, we can't sit back and say they don't want it. They don't want us. We can't say that kids are against God and all those things. Yes, in some ways they are, but they're open to a love relationship with somebody that loves the Lord.
Matt, you're chomping at the bits. Go for it.
Well, you said something that adults who come from that life, but it doesn't require adults who come from that life.
Right.
I didn't come from that kind of life.
Right.
It requires an adult who's got a heart for the Lord and is willing to let God teach them how to minister to these broken kids.
Right.
It's a willingness to learn. That's the key thing. And a willingness to serve. And they will put their hearts out there. As a mentor, you're stepping out there, you're putting your heart on the line, and there's a chance of getting hurt. But if we don't try, we're condemning these kids to a life of hopelessness. Too often we're ready to say, let somebody else do it. We got to be the ones to step up.
And if not the church, who will?
Yeah, that's the bottom line. And what I'm trying to communicate to you watching and listening today is, you say, well, my life's busy. I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I'm qualified. Mentor seems to be a big word. Throw all that out and give it a shot. Because if you feel the tug that God is saying, you know, I really want you to try this, go to that introductory orientation day coming up, what, next week?
Yeah, 25th.
And just spend the first hour or so there and take a look, take a listen as to how maybe God can plug you in. And it's not a huge commitment, right? I mean, you're just looking minimum. Matt?
It could be as little as a couple hours a week. It can grow to as much as you're willing to invest. It's a relationship you're building with the kid.
Mm-hmm.
How much time is that kid going to be worth in your life? It's a personal thing.
I just, you know, you almost have to ask yourself, where would you be if somebody didn't put their arm around you, if somebody didn't care for you?
Yeah, you know, when we think of our own personal stories of, you know, redemption and conversion, generally, you know, it doesn't come out of the blue. It's through a relationship, whether it's a person telling us what took place in their life, or them, you know, sharing something related to the gospel somewhere in there, or just inviting us somewhere where we've heard the gospel. But whether it was a family member or friend or whatever, there's a relationship involved in just about every person's story of redemption. And let me just add to that, if you know your story of redemption, if you know how God saved you, you know enough to share that with somebody else.
And that's all that's required, really.
Yeah, you don't have to know all the theological and doctrinal issues and all that stuff. If you know you're saved, if you know Jesus has paid the price for your sin on the cross, if you know you're redeemed, then you can share that with somebody else, and that's enough to engage them in the gospel.
Yeah, I think we have a hard time in this modern culture to come to grips with what you're saying, Matt, that there are some young people that are incarcerated that have no one.
And worse.
Huh?
And worse.
And worse, yeah. And then from, you know, what you're seeing in the campuses, Bud, kids that go home to no one.
Yeah.
I mean, they may have a family, but the family's not engaged. There's just nothing going on. There's just a big empty sign there.
Well, or every involvement, every time they engage with somebody in the family, it's painful.
Right.
There's abuse taking place.
Right. Well, again, there's a special opportunity for you to just check it out coming up on the 25th. They'll be there at the facility. What do they do, Bud? How do they get involved in that? Call you?
Just give us a call. Yeah. The number's 541-779-3275.
And go to the first hour of this orientation and see what the Lord just kind of does with you. we're gonna trust God to do something in your heart once you're first there. And then if you want to stay for the next hour or so in the first level of training, you can do that. But I tell you what, can you imagine your life story impacting another life? And that's all it's about. That's all about. Thanks, guys. Thank you for what you do. Thank you, Matt and Bud, for you guys, your incredible sacrifice in helping kids. And again, give YFC a call and become a part of that coming up on October 25th. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, Barry.
Thank you.